Welcome back to Chapter 3 for Wordsmythe Screenwriting Essentials. One of the next tools we're going to look at is creating a working title for the piece that you're going to be writing. And I stress and emphasize the word working. One of the things about titles is that they change endlessly, not just as you're writing, but as you then start to market your script. Title has a lot of different reasons for being. A producer will look at the piece and go, oh, this would be great, but you know, there was just oh, what was that guy's name? But the name of the film was Die Hard, and I don't think that we can do another film called Die Hard because everyone will expect that it's got oh, Bruce Willis in it. And so essentially, one of the points I want to make right now is that there is no copyright on title. You could call your film Die Hard if you wanted, but you won't because a producer will change it for you anyway. And rest assured that most likely a producer will change the title of your film. And after that, then oftentimes a distributor, the person who actually licenses the film and then makes sure that it goes out to all the theaters. Often a distributor will look at the piece, look at the movie and go, love it, but you know, Little Red Riding Hood just doesn't work for me. Can we call it something else? And so then they call it Die Hard. But what we're going to do for our purposes right now, we're going to think about come back to that place, that central idea, that spark of passion that first ignited our desire to write. We're going to come back there and we are going to think about all the possible novels, movies, songs, bread boxes, cereal boxes that we have ever read, seen, or heard, and we are going to pick a title that works for us, a working title. It can be anything. It can be a piece of poetry. It can be your address. The important thing about working title is it has two functions. One, it holds the place for you every single day. Every time you repeat your working title, it holds the emotional space that you want to write from. If we're writing right brain, we want something that cues us every time we say our title. I'm telling Tracy, oh, Tracy, I'm working on this film, and it's so cool. And she'll go, oh, great, what's it called? And you say, Honors Ranch. And she goes, okay. But for me, you know, it doesn't make any difference what Tracy thinks of your title. The difference is what it makes you think and feel every time you say it. You need a piece that is going to act as a lodestone, bring you right back to that place where you create from. So that is the purpose of using anything for your working title as long as it serves that function in you. If you're going to be writing from the right side of your brain, you need a key to unlock that vault every time you sit down at your computer. And your working title is going to serve that function. So choose it carefully. What's cool about saying is manifestation. When you say, okay, my working title is XYZ, and it is the story of a man named Jed, suddenly whatever it is you have set in motion begins to appear. Ideas come to you drawn like a magnet to that working title. Now that's the reason I think working titles are critical and why I say use anything. Use anything that brings you back to that place of creativity, because the working title is not just going to unlock the door to your right side of your brain, it is also going to attract ideas and concepts and comments and stuff like a magnet. And that is where all of your great right brain activity is going to come from choosing that working title and setting in motion that desire to write a story about a man named Jed. Suddenly, you're going to meet a guy named Jed. You're going to meet a woman who named her son Jed because she loved the Beverly Hillbillies. You're going to have that song playing endlessly in your brain. But also one of the cool things, and I want to take a little side trip about music, is that one of the things that you can use as well besides your working title is a piece of music. I had a strong family drama that I was writing that was based on some of my personal experience. And as you can imagine, if you've lived through tumultuous times with your family, you know it's great fodder for a screenplay. But how do you get to this emotional place where you can tell the truth about big personal experiences, family experiences, easily? And the truth is, you can't until you're ready to write that, but it also helps if you have a cue that takes you to that place where it's easy to say. And for me, that was a piece of music that talked about, it was a popular song, but it took me back to that emotional place of being 10 and what the world looked like around me. So just as we talked about putting pictures up on your computer to help you find the visual place to tell your story, sometimes a piece of music can help you find the emotional place to tell your story. Again, it can bring you back to that place where it's okay to tell the hard things because this music makes it so. So one of the things that music can do for you, in addition to your working title, is get you to a place where it evokes the emotion that you want to transmit to people. Somebody else already did it in a song, and so you know it's possible by using that song then as a springboard into your own storytelling. So that is one of the really useful things about music as a cue as well. So back to working title. You've created your working title. If you're working at home from the Wordsmythe workbook, there's an appropriate page where it asks you to enter your working title. So here in the classroom, I want you to take a moment, and on your notes, I want you to put down a working title, knowing that this may not be the working title that it will have as we go through this process and we fine-tune our thoughts about what we're going to be writing. We may change our working title. You may find something that really finesses that unlocking process on the right-hand side of your brain. But for now, I want you to put down a working title for the piece that we're going to be working on, okay? So the next tool we're going to be looking at is a log line. And a log line is a complex sentence, essentially very complex. It's got a lot of ands and buts, a lot of conjunctions that join pieces of information together. But essentially what a log line is, it is going to tell us the who, what, where, why, when. So we can start now to take our story idea notes that we jotted down. We can take our genre information, and we can take our working title that we just created, and now we're ready to build a log line. And I really do mean build. It's a compact little expression of what your film is going to be. And so I've got here on the page, I've got a log line for Monsters, Inc. And I'm going to read it to you, but also in your handouts here in the classroom, there's also a copy of the log line. But for the people at home watching the DVD, I'll read the log line, and we can just think about it for a moment. So, sample log line number 1 for Monsters, Inc. Monsters, Inc. is an animated feature that explores the premise that an entire monster world exists behind each child's closet door, and that this parallel universe is fueled by the screams that James P. Sullivan and his entire elite corps of monsters elicit nightly from children around the globe. So that's one long sentence. It's got most of the elements we want, but it's not perfect. So I think some of the problems with this sentence is, what's the conflict? What is it that Sully, James B. Sullivan, what is it he wants, and what's in the way? Those are the two most critical questions you're going to be asking yourself throughout the process of screenwriting. What does your main character want, and what is in the way? So let's look at the second log line. Let me flip my page for those of you in the classroom. The second sample log line for Monsters, Inc. goes like this. Poised to break the all-time scare record of the monster world he inhabits, James P. Sullivan inadvertently allows a human child into this parallel world one night while covering up a work glitch for his best friend Mike. With arch-rival Randall breathing down their necks, Sully and Mike must find a way to return the child, Boo, to her human world before her presence in Monstropolis is noticed and Boo destroys all that the boys hold dear. Now that's a little better logline, although I know all of you were thinking, wait a minute, wasn't that 2 lines? Wasn't that 2 sentences? Yes, it was. So that's the problem with that logline. But if you look at it, right at the top it tells us what's going on, what's the conflict. Poised to break the all-time scare record. And one of the differences you'll notice in this logline and the other one is that James P. Sullivan is right up there in about the second line. So we know who our main character is right off the bat, don't we? Whereas the other one left Sully's name to the very end. So we need to know who? James P. Sullivan. What? Poised to break the all-time scare record. So the other thing that this logline tells us right off the bat is it starts to flesh out some of the relationships. Mike, his best friend. Randall, the arch rival. Boo, somehow figures in there and is going to destroy the world that they hold dear. So essentially this logline gives us a lot of key information. Now, you may wonder why we want to create a logline. Partly because for ourselves. We want to create a log line that then becomes the litmus test that all that other information that is going to be attracted to our project essentially is held up against. Does the fact that a dog running through the park biting Sully have anything to do with anything in this log line? Well, no, it doesn't so far. There's no mention of the dog. There's no mention of a park. So we either have to make it fit, or we can write it down carefully, set it aside, and come back to one of the other millions of ideas that we're going to have once we set our intent to write from the right-hand side of our brain. So your logline serves as a litmus test for you to gauge all of the information you're going to be getting. The other thing that it is useful for is that it lights your path. It tells you where you're going. It's something you can come back to over and over again. It's like the lodestones the ancient mariners used to use that essentially, before they developed compasses, help them at least guess. Where the heck are we now? Well, they're in the middle of the Atlantic and the lodestone says go that way. So when you get confused about your direction in your story, come back to your log line and it says go straight ahead, do not deviate. And so the log line becomes then like our lodestone. It helps us stay on the straight and narrow while we're telling our story. The other thing that it's really useful for is once you've got your log line down pat, it's an easy way to tell people who inquire about your story what it's about. It's going to get to be where you can rattle off your log line just like that, and that's a good thing because you're going to run into people who can influence your story towards becoming a screenplay in any number of amazing places. The bathroom stall next to you, okay, men, maybe you don't know this, but women chat a lot in the washroom as you're applying makeup or blah, blah, blah. Oh, you get started to, oh, that's such a nice scent, what is it? And so, essentially, you're going to find people who will influence the future of your screenplay in an amazing number of places. And so, when you know your log line, you can say, well, oh, I'm working on a screenplay. You're kidding, I'm a producer. I happen to have a couple $1 million. I don't know what to do with. What's it about? So what the log line does is it then becomes the basis for your marketing, your screenplay. But we'll get to that in later lessons. Right now, we're mostly interested in the function it serves in order to create forward movement for us as to where we're going in our screenplay. So one of the things that we can do, and you can do at home, it'd be great if you guys tried this too. And you can, what's nice about this exercise is you can use your favorite films too. So take those same 3 or 4 DVDs that you watched looking at genre and looking for idea concept, and watch them all the way to the end this time. And if you've already know the film, watch it again. And at the end of that, take and practice writing a log line for 2, 3, 4 films, so that you get into the habit of stating the obvious. Who, what, where, why, when, what's going on in this DVD. Tell us the story in as succinct a manner as possible. 1 sentence if you can manage it, but pack it with information. And then come back and rewrite your own log line once you've had a chance to practice on someone else's film. I think you'll find that you make significant changes to your log line. So I want to take a moment, and before you approach the home study portion at home, I want you to take a moment and I want you to write down the log line for your story idea as it exists right now in your head. And you in the classroom here, create a compound sentence that tells us who, what, where, why, when. And get the name of your main character front and center, because this is what the story is about. So create your log line now, and you at home, have a look at creating your own log line before you go on to writing log lines for the DVDs that you've borrowed.